This will be a tutorial about how to make a simple interactive website using JavaScript. We're going to be using an online development environment called Repl.it, which is a free web-based environment that lets you work with HTML and CSS and JavaScript to write and test simple websites. The website to go to is just repl.it. It will bring you to this page. If you don't already have an account, you can sign up you can give yourself a username, type in your email address and a password, or if you want to use your Google account to log in, you can use the Google login and it will you can use the credentials for your Google account. I already have a Repl.it account, so I'm going to log in, and I use my Google credentials to log in. Choose my Google account, and now I'm logged in. So to start, you want to create a new REPL, and you have to choose which language you want to work with, and we're going to be working with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, so we'll choose that and click Create REPL. It gives you a chance to give it a name, so we're going to call this site, or this project, Activity Chooser, because this project will make a simple web page that allows a user to answer the question, what do you want to do today? And it will print something on the screen based on what you chose. You can add a description if you want. I'm not going to today. And just click off of that, and you can see it's added your name up here, and it started you off with the HTML already, some of it already written. And if you're familiar with the Khan Academy tutorial that we did in class, the environment will look very similar. You have a place to write your code here, and then on the right, it gives you a chance to preview what it would look like. They give you an HTML file where you can write your HTML, and they give you a CSS file for your styling, your CSS styling. In the Khan Academy tutorial, we wrote our styles right in the HTML file, but in this case, we're going to be making our styles in a separate CSS file, and I'll show you how that works shortly. We're also going to write our JavaScript to create the interactivity in a separate JavaScript file. Right now, both of those files are blank. We'll be adding our code later. But we'll start by creating our simple HTML. They've already given you the HTML boilerplate, those things that you expect to see in an HTML file. The doc type, that's HTML. You have your HTML tags, you have your head tags, and your body tag. In the head tag, you can see the char set equals UTF-8. That's familiar from the Khan Academy tutorial. And then, of course, a title. So it puts in a title called Repl.it, but we're going to change it and call it Activity Chooser. In the body, let's start adding some HTML tags. So we'll have an H1 tag that greets our website visitor. So we'll say, greetings, website visitor. And close our H1. And in order to have your page render, you just have to click the Run button at the top, and it will show you what it will look like on the right side. So this is very similar to the Khan Academy tutorial. It doesn't update it automatically. You just have to hit the Run button, and it will show you any changes you've made. Let's add another tag. Let's add a paragraph tag in, and we'll just pose a question. What would you like to do today? And close our paragraph tag. Again, if we want to see it render on the right, we'll just hit Run, and you can see now we have our H1, and then we have our paragraph tag. Great. All right, so it's there's no styling yet, so it's simply black words on a white background. Let's start working on styling this a little bit. So normally up here at the top in the Khan Academy tutorial, you saw you entered your style information right up here. But instead, we have this line here, which links this HTML file to the style.css separate file. And having your CSS in a separate file is a good idea. It keeps your styling separate from your HTML content, and it just makes things a little bit neater, easier to debug, and easier to change your styles if you decide to, because they're all in a separate CSS file. So we just have this link, href equals style.css. That's the name of the file, which you can see over here on the file. And then it says rel equals style sheet to say what kind of file this is. So this HTML file is linked to this style.css file. So this is where we'll write our CSS. So let's start putting in some simple styling. How about we just start by changing the color of our H1. So I'll have our H1 selector, open curly brace, and then let's change the color. And it will give you some choices here listed, so you can pick one of the ones that it has already listed, and semicolon at the end. Or if you click on it again, you can choose from a rainbow of colors. And when you choose one, it will put the RGB, red, green, and blue numbers in here, so it will set what the color will be. And if I run this, you can see now our H1 has been styled. Let's do one more style. So I'm just going to bring it, let's style the body next. And I would kind of like my, my text to be centered on the page rather than left aligned. So I'm going to change the alignment of everything in the body. So I'm going to use the text align selector, and I'm going to choose center. If I run it, now we see that all of our text, everything that's in the body, is now centered. Feel free to go along and try some other CSS in here. Style it up whatever way you want. I'm just going to leave this like this for now. Okay. Now let's work on making our website. Well, let's start by adding an image. So let's add a little bit more to our HTML. It's always nice to have an image on the page. So right below our paragraph, we'll put an image tag in here, but let's go find an image. I'd kind of like to have an image of a question mark in here. So I'm just going to search for one. So I'm going to open up just a new website tab, and I'm going to go to Google's website and click on images and do a Google image search, and I'm just going to search for a question mark. I'm going to go to look just on wikipedia.org. I can probably find a pretty simple free one there. So I'm restricting it to Wikipedia, and I'm looking for question mark. And it finds a whole bunch of them. You can pick which one you like. I kind of like this one, so I'll click on it and open it up. And then I'll right-click on that, and I'll choose Copy Image Address. So I'm just going to borrow this image from here. Normally you would create your own images for a website, but for this example, I'm just going to borrow this image from Wikipedia. We'll go back to our HTML and add an image tag. And the source equals, and then I'm just going to paste in that address for the question mark. I'll add some alt text and maybe a width. Close the image tag, and then I'll run it, make sure I got it right, and sure enough, there is our question mark now on our website. So things are shaping up pretty well. But now I'd like to add some interactivity to this website. I want to give the user a chance to input what they would like to do today, and then have that information displayed on the page. And so to create that interactivity, I'm going to create a function in JavaScript. And again, we have to link a JavaScript file where our code's going to be to our HTML. So sure enough, they've already put it in here for us. The script tag that shows up at you put at the bottom of the body, and it's just script source equals script.js, which is the name of this script file, and then just close that script tag. And that way it will look to this file for any anything that we want, any JavaScript that we want to run on this page. So let's start writing some code to make that interactivity happen. So I'll go to the script.js file, and I'm going to create a function. And a function is just a group of code that does a particular thing. It's kind of like writing your own command, so that when you invoked the name of this function, it will do all the code that's in here. So we're going to call this function chooseActivity. And open parentheses, close parentheses, and then a space, and then a curly brace. And then any code that we write between these curly braces will run whenever we call this function chooseActivity. First thing I'm going to create in here is something called a variable. And a variable is just a container that's going to hold some information. And this particular variable we're going to call activity. And we always end our lines with a semicolon. And so this variable is designed to hold whatever the user of the website types in when they answer the question, what would you like to do today? So that's just a little container to hold that so we can do something with it. But in this function, it needs to ask the user for that information. And so in order to ask the user, we're going to have a prompt call up and give the user a chance to type something in. So we're going to make the contents of this variable activity equal to whatever we prompt them for. So prompt, open parentheses, and then what we want it to display when it's prompting the user. So tell me what you want to do, close parentheses, and semicolon at the end. So now the function will prompt the user, tell me what you want to do, and whatever the user types in, it will be stored in this variable called activity. Great. But now we have to have a way for the user to, we have to have a way for the user to enter this information. And then we also have to have a place for the answer to show up on the HTML. So we need to go back and add some things to our HTML. So I'll go back here. And so underneath our image tag, I'm going to create, first some space. I'm going to add a few line breaks here. A couple of breaks. And then I'm going to put in a container for the JavaScript to put the answer that it receives. And then I'm also going to put a button on the page that when the user clicks it, it's going to call that chooseActivity function and get the interactivity going. So let's put those two things in here. So I'm going to put a button, and I want when somebody clicks the button, so on click equals, it's going to run our chooseActivity function. So now, when someone clicks that button, it's going to run the chooseActivity function. But then I need some information to go, oops, fix that, close that button tag, to be displayed inside the button. So I want it to say, tell me what you want to do. And then I'm going to have a closed button tag. What does that look like when I run it? So that creates a button with the words in it, tell me what you want to do. And when I click that button, it's going to run the chooseActivity function. Well, our function's not finished. We're not finished writing it yet, so I'm not going to click the button yet. When the chooseActivity function runs, I want it to put the answer somewhere on this page. And I'm just going to make a place for it. I'm going to make an H2 where the answer will show up. But I have to have some way for the JavaScript to be able to identify this H2. And I do that by giving it a label, a name, and what's called an ID. So I'm going to ID this H2 and give it a name called answer. And then a closing H2 tag. So this H2 has an ID of answer, so we can use that in the JavaScript to find this H2. But right now the H2 is empty. The JavaScript will change it so it has something in it, and then it will end up showing up on the page. But right now the H2 is nothing, so it doesn't have anything on the page. So we've got our button. We've got an H2 waiting for the answer, and we've got it labeled with an ID called answer. So let's go back to our JavaScript. So our function so far has a variable activity, and inside the variable activity, it will take whatever the user types in when prompted. Tell me what you want to do. And then we want the function to change that H2 so it contains whatever is inside activity. So to do this, we need to get that H2 element using that ID. So the way you do that is the command is document.getElement by ID. And capitalization is important. So document is lowercase, .get is lowercase, and then element by ID each have an uppercase letter at the beginning of each one. So that's important. The ID that H2 is called answer. So we'll get element by ID answer. So that will grab that H2 element in our HTML. And then we want to change what's inside that HTML. So we're going to do .inner HTML. And then we're going to change it to, and we're going to type some text, and we're going to include what was in the activity variable, which is what the user types in. So we're going to say great, and then we'll string it together. So we'll hit a plus, and then whatever's in activity, and then a plus, and then some more text. So I'll open quotes and then a space to kind of space it out between what's in activity and then our next line. Sounds like a fantastic idea. Close the quote and end it with a semicolon. All right, so if I haven't made any mistakes, it should prompt the user for an activity. The user types an activity in, and it's stored in the activity variable. And then it gets our element in our HTML that we ID'd as answer, which is that H2, and then it changes its inner HTML and puts in it this sentence. Great, whatever the activity is, sounds like a fantastic idea. So let's see if that works. I'll pop back into my HTML. Everything looks okay. We'll hit run. So then our HTML refreshes. See what happens when I click the button. It gives me a prompt. It says, tell me what you want to do. So let's say I want to go hiking. I'll click OK. And down here you can see now we have an H2 that says, great, go hiking sounds like a fantastic idea. So we have now taken a HTML website styled with CSS and written some JavaScript that makes it interactive. So the user can click a button, write some information, and then that information is incorporated into the web page. We'll try it again. Tell me what you want to do. I'll click that. Let's say I want to go fishing. Click OK, and it changes our H2. Great, go fishing sounds like a fantastic idea. So now you have created a web page using HTML, CSS, and added some interactivity using JavaScript.